from Network Rail and the University of Surrey on climate change adaptation in asset management.
Thank you.
You need the...
Well, I don't need it, but if I have to, I can use it.
I think it's okay.
Hello. Thanks, Nadia, for an interesting talk. I'm Hristo Dikanski, and I'll talk to you today about climate change adaptation for asset management. So a bit of engineering, a bit of decision making and uncertainty, which can then inform public policy. So it links together with previous and following topics. A few words about myself first. I've just, well, not just 2 years ago. Yes. I got my Masters of Engineering from Bristol University, that was in civil engineering. And now I've moved on to an engineering doctorate degree, which is at the University of Surrey. It's a 4-year project. And as part of that project, I'm doing the research I'm presenting. The difference between an MD, which I'm doing, and a PhD, mainly is the fact that it's based in the industry. So I'm based full-time with Network Rail, and barely ever go to the university. So I'm essentially working for Network Rail full-time, doing the research for them. With Network Rail, they own and operate the entire railway infrastructure in Britain. Essentially that means anything that doesn't move on the railway. They don't do anything to do with trains. They have train operating companies that do that. But all the structures, track, signaling, stations, offices, is their responsibility. Just to put some things into perspective, they own over 20,000 miles of track, over 28,000 bridges, just to give you an idea of the magnitude of the challenge they face. Because all these physical assets are constantly under the effects of weather, and these need to be managed effectively. So I'm going to split the presentation in three main parts. First of all, I'll talk about the current weather resilience. Not sure if you can see this. We'll then move on to viewing this resilience of the infrastructure in the context of a changing climate and introduce the concept of climate change adaptation. And finally, we'll see what we can do about these projects, thinking about the future and how the current research contributes to this. So, current weather resilience. Like I said, thousands of assets constantly under threat by weather events. We've just witnessed the UK's wettest winter since records began. That came straight after the wettest year on record, which was last year. So we've been subjected to some very severe weather events, and all these affect our infrastructure, and they've affected us all in our daily lives. Some of the effects weather has on the infrastructure include bridge scour, which essentially undermining of foundations of bridges due to excessive flooding, and incidentally this is the focus of my research. But also other effects include general flooding, so when trains can't pass just because there's water in the way. Flooding also causes direct structural damage. The seawall near Dawlish collapsed last month, causing millions of pounds of economic losses daily. It still hasn't been fixed. What else? Well, apart from flooding, there's also indirect weather effects like landslides. Also, storms can cause blockages of the line by blowing trees on the line. Also, excessive heat can cause rail blockages. And also, signaling equipment failures. All sorts of weather events. So these all we're experiencing now in the current climate. But what will climate change bring into the scene? And what is actually climate change adaptation, which is the focus of my research again. When I talk to people about climate change adaptation, the immediate response often is, oh yes, you're dealing with greenhouse gas emissions and reducing your carbon footprint. Okay, I blame the math for this. Using renewable energy and reducing your flights. No, these are all mitigation measures which we can use to mitigate the effects of climate change and the extent to which climate change will take place. But adaptation is increasing our resilience to the inevitable changes that we are observing, we have been observing over the past century. Temperatures have been increasing globally. This has been shown beyond any doubt by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, their fourth assessment report in 2007, and also the latest one last year has confirmed this. A big problem though, and a big question to be answered is by how much, how do we know what is actually going to happen? We know something is happening. We've been witnessing more erratic weather, how much? Well, for the UK, there's been a set of probabilistic climate projections developed in 2009, which give us an idea of what we can expect in terms of at least direction of change. The three main aspects. It's going to get hotter, we'll get wetter winters, and we're going to get drier summers. How much? Well, here's a brief summary. Wetter winters, for example. Some parts of the UK we're going to get up to a third more rain compared to now. Imagine what we've just witnessed. This will pretty much be a standard. And then the numbers in the brackets give you an idea of the variability of this data and actually the uncertainty. Not sure if I'm using the uncertainty term correctly here. Well, the 10th percentile. So they say it's highly unlikely that the increase will be anything less than 9%. It's highly unlikely, 90th percentile of the data, that the increase will be anything more than 70%. But you can see this, it makes a difference, doesn't it? Whether it's 9 or 70%. It actually can be anywhere within this region or actually outside this range. So how do we know? This is actually one of the main challenges of the project. How do we act in this wide-ranging uncertainty? Looking at these, 5.4 degrees hotter in the summer, a third more rain. Are we in trouble? We've just witnessed such incredible disruption to all our lives, especially railway infrastructure. Probably are. What can we do about it? And how does the current project fit within all this? Well, the challenges asset managers are facing is that they just don't know what to do. They've been acting in a certain way for years.